Dragon's Vow. Act 1, The Offering. Chapter 1, The Flame-Marked Girl. The wind carried the scent of ash. Elira Valin stood at the edge of the balcony, her pale fingers pressed against the cold stone rail. Below, the city stirred, a tide of red banners flapping against the slate-gray dawn. Drums beat in a slow rhythm, hollow as the heart of the realm. A procession was forming beneath her. The offering day had come. She traced the edge of her sleeve, pulling it down to cover the mark on her inner wrist. It had burned faintly all morning, as if knowing. The flame-shaped birthmark, once a blot of shame, now a death sentence. Her breath trembled in her chest. At 18, she had thought herself forgotten, too old for the choosing. The offerings were always girls of 13, perhaps 14. Young enough to be seen as innocents, too young to question the fate prepared for them. But this year had broken all rules. "Elira," a voice called softly behind her. She turned. Sister Maevra stood in the doorway, her veil casting deep shadows across her lined face. The older woman's gaze, cool and unreadable, flicked once to Elira's sleeve, then to her eyes. "They wait," Maevra said. Elira swallowed. Her voice would not obey her, so she simply nodded. As she followed Maevra through the winding corridors of the palace's oldest wing, the weight of the moment pressed upon her, heavier than any crown. Each footstep echoed like a tolling bell. The servants they passed lowered their eyes. Soldiers stood stiffly against the walls, their armor dull beneath the torchlight. No one spoke. Downward they walked, spiral stairs into the belly of the keep, where stone turned ancient, worn by centuries of fear, the offering vault. The doors loomed ahead, twin slabs of iron engraved with a dragon's coiled form. Its eyes were hollow, its teeth sharp. Legend whispered that the red dragons had once ruled the skies, their fire a language of gods. Now only one remained. Kael'thar, the last red. Elira's heart thundered as the guards unbarred the doors. A gust of air met them, dry, heated, scented faintly of char and bone. "Go forward alone," Maevra whispered. "And remember, the old ways are not all dead." Elira's mouth parted, a question on the edge of breath, but Maevra was already retreating. The doors groaned open. She stepped inside. The chamber was vast, a cathedral of stone and shadow. Stalactites hung like the fangs of some buried leviathan. In the center of the floor lay the circle of offering, a perfect ring of white ash against the black rock. She walked forward, her crimson gown trailing like spilled blood. As she reached the center, her steps slowed. The air grew warmer, thicker. The beat of her pulse pounded in her ears. The darkness shifted. A low rumble, ancient as the mountains, trembled through the chamber. From the farthest reaches of shadow, a shape unfurled. A vast, coiling presence, scaled in deep crimson that shimmered faintly beneath the torchlit haze. Eyes opened, twin embers set in a face that dwarfed her. The dragon watched her. Elira could not breathe. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet her legs held her fast within the circle. She raised her chin, slowly, deliberately. "I am Elira Valin," she said, her voice low but steady. "I come as offering." Silence. Then the dragon spoke, not in words, but in a sound like molten stone shifting beneath the earth. The chamber vibrated with it. And then, impossibly, a voice within her mind, "You bear the mark." She staggered, gasping as the voice coiled through her thoughts, deep and resonant. "Few remain who carry the fire. Why do you come?" "Because they sent me," she whispered. "Because they fear you." The great head lowered, closer, scales rippling with faint heat. She could see the detail of each ridge, the fine pattern of ancient scars along his snout. His breath washed over her, warm, tinged with iron and smoke. "They fear what they do not understand," Kael'thar's voice replied. "And so they burn what they cannot control." His eye dilated, gleaming like a molten sun. "But you do not run." Elira's legs quaked. Her body screamed with the instinct to flee, yet some fierce defiance rooted her in place. "I have nothing left to run to," she said. For a long moment, the dragon was still, save for the slow curl of smoke from his nostrils. Then he moved. The great snout descended further, until the hard curve of it hovered inches from her brow. Elira stood frozen, her breath shallow. "Do you know the vow?" The voice rumbled. She blinked. "What vow?" A sound like a low chuckle reverberated through the stone. "Forgotten by men, but remembered in fire. You bear the mark, girl. The bond may yet be forged." The dragon's head tipped slightly, angling so that his brow nearly brushed hers. "If you choose it." Elira's heart thudded wildly. She barely understood, but something ancient stirred in her blood. The mark on her wrist flared, heat rushing up her arm. "I choose," she whispered. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then a single touch, his scaled brow against her skin. The contact seared her mind with light and sound, a torrent of fire and memory. Visions of dragons soaring beneath crimson skies, of old pacts written in flame, and beneath it all, a deep ache of loss. Kael'thar drew back, his voice quieter now. "Then it has begun." Alira swayed, her knees near buckling. She tasted ash on her tongue, felt her blood thrum with strange new energy. She looked up. The dragon's eyes burned brighter than before, but not with hunger, with recognition. "Go now," he said. "Return before they tear you from me. The vow is not yet sealed." Alira stumbled from the circle, her legs weak, breath ragged. Behind her, the darkness seemed to pulse with a living heartbeat. As the great doors closed, the last thing she heard was the faint echo of Kael'thar's voice. "You are more than they know, Alira Valen. And so am I." Chapter 2. Ashes in the wind, the scent of burning pine haunted her more than the screams. Alira jolted upright in her cot, breath sharp, fingers fisting the coarse blanket that clung to her like a second skin. The dawn hadn't broken yet, but the horizon outside the Abbey's stained glass slit windows glowed with a faint orange smear. Too soft to be fire, too cruel to be peace. She touched her brow, where sweat gathered. Still intact, still hers. But the dream had returned again. No, not a dream. A memory that walked like a ghost. She stumbled to the basin, splashing cold water over her face, watching her reflection ripple, then reform. Chestnut hair clung to her cheeks, eyes too wide, too haunted. The flame-shaped mark just above her heart still pulsed faintly, like an ember reluctant to die. The village had burned 10 years ago, but it lived behind her eyes like it never left. In her dreams, she always stood at the edge of the well, barefoot and small, her mother's hand tightening around her wrist, whispering, "Don't look." But of course she had. She always did. And every time, the same scene met her gaze. Fire crawling over rooftops like a living thing, sky smudged with ash. A roar, inhuman, ancient, furious. And then the eyes, crimson, unforgiving. And in their glow, a promise she couldn't yet understand. "You are marked. You are mine." She shivered now, clutching the edge of the basin until her knuckles blanched. What child survived dragonfire? None. Not truly. And yet here she stood, Alira Valen, flame-marked, not devoured. The sisters never spoke of the fire. Not even Maevra, who had found her alone in the scorched ruins. Her dress unburnt, her eyes dry, staring into the mouth of a world forever changed. Outside her room, the Abbey bell gave its low, shuddering toll. Dawn prayers. She dressed quickly, tying her simple gray robes at the waist, slipping soft-soled shoes over feet that still felt like running. But today, her legs carried her not toward the chapel, but to the northern tower, where the oldest scrolls lay dust-laden and forbidden. She didn't know why, only that she had to know. The stone hallway felt colder than usual. The silence didn't comfort her. It amplified the tremble in her thoughts. She passed the sigil of the flame binder etched into the wall, an open palm with a spark at its center. She pressed her own palm to it, as she always did, and whispered the morning vow. "Let me not fear fire. Let me be fire." The door to the archives opened with a low groan. She stepped inside. The scent of parchment and old magic rushed her senses. 1,000 forgotten thoughts slept here, stacked and coiled like dragon bones, coated in dust, but not truly dead. Alira made her way to the far alcove, where the scrolls of the pre-culling were kept. The era before the Dragon War, when flamebinders still walked the palace courts and dragons were kin, not curse. Her fingers hesitated above a narrow, leather-bound codex. It bore no title, only the symbol again, this time with a twist. A flame wrapping the palm, spiraling inward like a secret. She opened it. The page was faded, but the words rang clear in her chest as if etched into her own blood. When the last red flame walks as flesh, and dreams carry ash like snow, the vow will seek its match. The fire shall remember, and the girl shall wake the world. She stared. The words glowed faintly. A heartbeat passed, and then she knew. Her dreams weren't only memory. They were warnings. Pieces of something older, ancient even by dragon standards. She was seeing through the veil of flame into what had been, or what might come again. The image from the dream returned, unbidden. A dragon winging through a blackened sky, eyes aflame, and her, a child, standing beneath it, unburned. No scream, no fear, just the feeling, familiar. The dream had never been a nightmare. It had been recognition. "Alira," she spun. Sister Maevra stood in the doorway, her dark robes brushing the floor like shadows. Her eyes were sharp, but not unkind. "You know you're not permitted here." Yes, sister. I couldn't sleep." Maevra stepped inside, fingers trailing the ancient shelves as if touching memory itself. "The fire again?" Elira nodded. Maevra's eyes settled on the open page. "You found it." "I didn't mean to," Elira said softly, "but it feels like it was waiting." Maevra exhaled, long and low. Perhaps it was. She reached out and gently touched the flame mark on Elira's chest, just over her robes. "That mark is not a curse," she said. "Nor is it proof of survival. It is a summons. And soon, child, you will have to answer it." "To what?" Elira whispered. "To the one who waits in ash and memory," Maevra replied. "The dragon did not come to end you. He came to begin you." Elira's breath caught. Outside, the dawn finally broke, and the wind that swept across the abbey fields did not smell like pine or dew. It smelled like embers, like waking fire, like a past that refused to stay buried. And Elira knew her dream wasn't just returning, it was calling her home. Chapter 3, Chosen by Fire. They told the people it was tradition. They told the nobles it was duty. They told the girls it was honor. But none of it was truth. Elira sat motionless within the cold stone alcove of the cathedral chamber. The only warmth, the flickering light of 100 crimson candles lining the walls. The choosing would begin at dawn. By dusk, one name would be called. Her name, though she did not know it yet. Outside, beneath the tall windows stained with dragons mid-flight, the crowds gathered in tight columns. Nobles draped in crimson silk stood apart from commoners in soot-stained tunics. Soldiers flanked the square in gleaming ranks. Above all, the towering spire of the Temple of Flame cast its long shadow over the assembly, an ancient ritual, older than the monarchy itself. A ritual designed not to honor the last red, but to appease it, or so they told us. Elira thought, her fingers absently tracing the edge of her sleeve, where the flame-shaped birthmark still burned faint and insistent. Across the chamber, Sister Maevra's eyes found her through the crowd of girls, 30 in all, gathered on their knees before the altar. Elira was older than most by nearly 4 years. They had never chosen someone so near womanhood. But this year, something had changed. The air in the kingdom had shifted. Whispers of unease haunted the corridors of the palace. 3 moons ago, a village to the east had burned to blackened earth overnight. No survivor had seen what came from the sky, but the scorched symbols left in the fields told the truth. Kael'thar stirred. And when the great dragon stirred, the king grew desperate. In the absence of true magic, fear became its counterfeit. That was why the king's advisor, Lord Varant, had invoked an ancient clause of the Dragon Pact, the right of the crown to widen the offering. No longer bound by age, they sought one whose bloodline carried the fire. A seer from the Flame Abbey had been summoned. 3 nights she burned incense and bone, casting shadows against the chamber walls. 3 nights her voice echoed strange words in the tongue of dragons long thought dead. On the 4th night, she emerged and spoke a single name, Elira Valen. Now, as the sky outside lightened to indigo, the choosing began. The high priestess entered first, robes a cascade of red and gold. She bore the flame chalice in both hands, an ancient vessel carved from dragon bone, its rim perpetually smoldering. Behind her came King Theron himself, robed in black beneath a crimson mantle. His crown of iron thorns glinted with cold light. Elira bowed her head with the others, but her heart thundered. A procession of guards parted the center aisle. Lord Varant's eyes swept the kneeling girls like a blade. His gaze lingered on Elira a moment too long. The high priestess raised the chalice. "By fire we choose," she intoned. "By blood we bind. By sacrifice we seek peace." A low chant rose among the robed priests lining the walls. The air thickened with incense and unseen power. One by one, the high priestess passed before each girl, pausing only long enough for the flame to flicker and lean toward, or away. The girls flinched beneath the heat, lips moving in silent prayer. Elira kept her gaze fixed forward, jaw set. Closer, closer. When the chalice reached her, the air seemed to hum. The flame did not merely flicker. It surged, arching impossibly toward her heart, wreathing the birthmark beneath her sleeve in unseen heat. A gasp rippled through the chamber. Elira's breath caught. The high priestess's eyes widened. She turned to the king and inclined her head. "The fire has chosen," she said. King Theron's expression did not change, but a tightness around his mouth betrayed the satisfaction beneath. "Elira Valen," the high priestess declared, "bearer of flame, chosen of the pact." The room fell into shocked silence. Elira's vision blurred at the edges. A cold certainty settled into her bones. This was no accident, no ritual whim. They had known. They had sought her, singled her out. Because she bore the mark. Because the blood of the old flamebinders still ran faint and flickering through her veins. A voice shattered the stillness. "No!" The cry came from the crowd. Prince Corrin striding forward from the shadows beyond the guards. His face was pale, eyes dark with fury. "She is no child," he said. "This is mockery of the old rites." King Theron's gaze did not waver. The pact does not name age, only fire. Corrin's jaw clenched. He looked once to Elira, something unspoken flickering between them. Before a pair of guards seized his arms, Elira forced herself to stand. Her knees trembled. The gaze of hundreds pressed upon her, hungry and unblinking. She met the king's eyes across the hall. "If it is to be done," she said, her voice quiet but clear, "then let it be done by my will, not yours." A ripple moved through the assembly. The high priestess inclined her head solemnly. "Then the bond may yet be forged true." As the priests led Elira away, a final glance toward Sister Maevra caught the old woman's eyes, and in them, for the first time, Elira saw something that chilled her blood more than fire. Not sorrow. Expectation. As if Maevra had known this path would always lead here. As if the choice had never truly been hers.